Hello Brian, perhaps we could start by just recapping of how we got to this point of time for the proposal for a new Unified Maths Society.
Yes. Over the last 15 years, the LMS and the IMA have both been much more involved in engaging with the government and other organisations in the outside world. We've had to do this because the pace of change has been increasing and because to some extent the future support of mathematics has been under threat. This is not just a theoretical possibility. Funding of mathematics, particularly in the last few years, has actually substantially decreased. So the need for engagement with the public, both in terms of research funding and in terms of trying to improve the status of the education of children, students in schools, has been very important. In the late 1990s, we decided that we had sufficiently similar interests that we ought to be much more engaged with each other in order to try to speed up the process and make it more efficient. In the late 1990s, a working group was set up to enable us to see how to act more efficiently in this sort of public engagement work. But in 2003, it was felt that although this had been successful to a substantial extent, we needed to go further. And a Framework Studies initiative was set up looking at three possible distinct models for future collaboration. One was basically to continue more or less as we had been. The second was to unify certain activities of the two societies. And the third was to set up a completely new society. In 2005, the working group reported to both councils separately, and they decided that the proposal to set up an entirely new society was by far the best of all three. And in 2006, the councils decided to set up something which was called the Next Step Initiative with a new working group, which would outline how this new society would function in some detail, so that it would be possible to decide whether in fact there were some overwhelming problems which prevented progress and see whether a new unified society could work effectively. That working party, after an enormous number of meetings, which were reported back to the councils and discussed endlessly, reported in the spring of this year, and both councils have discussed it at length. In June of this year, they both had a formal decision to accept the report of the working group and also to commend it to the two members. Now, accepting that report meant that they were intending to recommend that we should go on to the next step, provided the consultation of members was successful. This is what is going to be covered in the next presentation.
Thank you very much. So, could I summarise it accurately as the fact that we've got to this point in time is really something which has happened over 15 years or so and is a natural convergence of the two societies rather than two societies feeling that they need to come together?
Yes, absolutely. And I would like to emphasise again that this is not simply the views of the two of us. I mean, we do both support what our councils are recommending, but in these subsequent videos, what we will be saying is telling you the reasons that led the councils to make the decisions, and so although we are the mouthpieces of the councils, we are speaking with their full support.
Thank you.